Hello YouTube, this is Morgan, Airspeed Prime here at my next Star Wars comic review. This one's going to be for Star Wars Poe Dameron issue number 4. And yeah, this is the start of a new arc called Lockdown. And we obviously previously had just the general first start arc searching for Lor San Tekka. And this is moving into the prison, which they set up at the end of the last issue. And that's where we're going. We immediately jump into there, get explanation about what's going on, why we're going here, and an idea about where this arc overall is going. So, straight away I would say this issue is a huge improvement over issue 3, the last issue, because I felt that was a huge letdown in terms of ending that initial arc just in a very poor way. How they just so vaguely touched upon what came out of the egg, and then there was just a fight, one of them was killed, and then they just kind of go off, and just like no explanation whatsoever. Huge disappointment, but ultimately I suppose a good setup for like Poe Terex stuff. Because issue 1 was great, issue 2 was a great introduction to Terex, 3 was just like solid use of characters, but the story just was very disappointing. This one, huge return to form, lot of interesting stuff going on here, so let's just get straight into it. We start off with basically kind of in progress, and then we flash back to why we're in this situation. So the opening page is basically Poe captured talking to Gracchus the Hutt, who's obviously the person they're trying to get the information about Lor San Tekka from, and basically they have a deal about something. So here's what Gracchus the Hutt looks like. Interesting, overall looks like a normal Hutt. The key difference is obviously the necklace he's wearing, and then his eyes are two separate colors, or something has happened to one of his eyes, and there's his other eye is normal. I don't know, maybe he's blind in one eye or something like that. The other page actually here does reveal that he has these other Hutt kind of bodyguards with him, and this is I think our first time seeing Hutts, like more or less first time use weaponry, or at least look like kind of warrior Hutts. And they have all those kind of technological enhancements to help themselves move around more effectively. So that's interesting, just that he doesn't just have other species guarding him. It's actually his own species, but modified in certain ways. So that's interesting. Then we cut back to Dakar, which is where the headquarters of the Resistance is. And basically Black Squadron is celebrating their, coming home safely, basically, after the last issue, and that obviously everyone survived, and they're just celebrating that overall their mission went well, they got out of there safely, and they have an idea about where to get their information from going forward. What happens from there is that during the celebrations we get basically 3 key conversations between Black Squadron. We get Poe talking to Lulo, we get Jess Pava talking to Adi, and then we get Snap Wexley talking to Kare. Now, what happens here, what Poe and Lulo talk about is obviously Poe basically, in a kind way, kind of just a little bit kind of gives out to Lulo for what he did. He was the one who started the fight with the First Order. He fired first, he damaged them first, and asked the First Order to attack. And Poe just explains to him that, here's the thing, I'm the best, you're the best, we're all the best. Black Squadron is the best. One-on-one, we can beat any First Order pilots. That's how good we are. But if we give them a reason to attack us first, it's not one-on-one. It's 1,000-on-1. We are not yet at the stage where we can do that. So, he's just kind of letting him know that Black Squadron exists for a reason. We're meant to do these kind of more stealth, specialized missions. And we can't be fighting wars just our squadron against a whole battle group basically from the First Order. And it's just, Lulo kind of realizes kind of what he did wrong, and Poe just in a nice way has kind of told him to fix that in the future. When we're told not to engage, don't engage, even if you think you have some tricky way to do things. Next one, Kare and Snap Wexley talking, and what we get here is basically just a kind of aftermath thing about Snap, thinking that perhaps one of them was going to get killed, was about to admit how he feels for Kare over the open comms, and she comes over to him and is basically like, what were you going to say? And he's like, well, now it's super awkward, and she's just like, what? It's awkward talking to me one-on-one here when you were going to announce it basically live to every pilot in the Resistance. and he's just like, well, I guess I'm more of a man of action. And then she basically just goes up to him and says, you know what, Wexley, me too. Implying that, he was just about to say, I love you, and she basically is just saying, I love you too. And, it's implied that a kiss happens, but we cut away from it, so it's basically like off screen, which is what's happening here. Last conversation is Oddie talking to Jess. And what this is basically about is just, Oddie is obviously the technician right now. He is a pilot, obviously we see him in The Force Awakens, but he's just basically asking, how are the new boosters, and she talks about how great it was, and that, look, once we get more ships, you'll be out there with us. You're part of this group, and, you're one of the best too. We just need to get more ships, and he just thanks her and is basically just like, so what's happening next? And they just say, yep, something about a prison is coming up. So just, a little bit of all of these characters talking to each other. We have 6 members of Black Squadron, and we get the 6 of them characterized a little bit here, in that Jess, even though she is one of the kind of key pilots in this movement, is kind of aware of how Oddie feels, kind of being left out, the only one without like a proper ship really at this point in time. So pretty nice scene there. The only thing with this is obviously that most of these characters we have seen in The Force Awakens, and that Jess, Snap, Oddie, all in The Force Awakens. Kare isn't, and Lolo I don't think is in it either. So are they killed? What happens there? Because I think if Kare was a character that was in the movie, we would have got further reference to her in the movie and something like that. So I think potentially something happens to her, or else she just moves away and the relationship doesn't happen at this point in time right now. But I'm not really sure how exactly they're going to go about doing that. But still, Black Squadron just further set up for it. It's definitely good. But then we cut to basically learning about the prison. It's in this system called Megalox Beta. And basically we just, they arrive there and they reveal that basically the way this prison works is that it's a privately operated prison. So it's not like run by a specific system, it is basically a business. They accept payments for people to come visit and do all this stuff, and that's how they make their money basically. They keep the prisoners in, and I think it's implied that the only thing that they don't do is basically get payments to let the prisoners out. They keep them in there, but they let people go in, come out, send stuff in, and get items potentially out. But that's how it works, and so General Organa paid a lot to get them in, and basically that's what Black Squadron's doing here. They're paying to get into the prison, to get the information, and then get back out, because they have to go see Graxus the Hutt to get information about Lor San Tekka, because Lor San Tekka came to visit him for some reason, or something like that. So really, really interesting kind of the way it's set up. So it says here, turns out our man Lor went to see someone named Graxus the Hutt. He's a collector, very into all sorts of Force-related things, Jedi stuff. So we have a Hutt who is interested in anything relating to the Jedi Order, and we know that Lor San Tekka is basically a member of the kind of Church of the Force, basically. Like in terms of being a non-Jedi himself, but he still commits to the whole way of the Jedi and the Force type situation. So pretty interesting. And then they further explain the prison, which this is what it looks like, in that it's basically just this one major city that the prison is on this planet. But the thing is, the planet Megalox has insane gravity. If you just walk on the surface of the planet, you basically experience 10 times your own weight because of the gravity, and so that effectively is enough to crush any living being. So you can, if you want to, walk out of that kind of anti-gravity kind of force field, but you'll get killed. So it's basically just that by nature of the location that they're in, no one is going to escape because of this gravity field and the way it's set up. They don't have any guards posted in there. The prisoners basically govern themselves, and they just send supplies in, basically enough food and stuff like that to keep them alive. And that's why I suppose Graxus can get away with basically being somewhat in charge of this whole situation. and how people can come and go as they please, because the only kind of way to get in and out is basically to get the kind of you can sort of see it at the top. It's kind of like a space kind of elevator type thing that kind of goes up and down from the kind of orbit of the planet to the actual surface. And basically what happens is that Poe and co are sort of there where the guards are going to escort them in to where Graxus is and then escort them back out. But as that happens, basically they're pushed into the kind of basically entrance, and the guards stay on the outside and basically say, yeah, you've been outbid. Someone paid us more to let them in and then not escort you to where you need to go. And so basically Black Squadron are kind of on their own. They have weapons, but obviously they're outside of their ships and stuff like that, and they're basically about to be taken out by a lot of prisoners. So they have to go in, huge ground engagement as they kind of walk in, and kind of have to fight their way to Graxus. And eventually they are surrounded by Graxus and his men, and basically he just says that, I'm a civilized hood attempting to live a civilized life in an uncivilized place. All that I ask is that my guests respect that. If not, well, you and your friends will be free to make your way back to the landing platform, although we'll be keeping your weapons, of course. So, do we have a deal? So he basically agrees, like, you can keep your weapons as long as you don't do anything with them. Otherwise, I'll send you back out without your weapons and you'll be in trouble. So he basically agrees that, I'm going to talk to you here, and he brings him inside and sits him down right next to Terex. So explaining that the First Order were the ones who outbid the Resistance. They got in there first, but when they actually get to talking, he basically says this. He says, here's my offer, gentlemen. I will provide my information to one of you and one of you only. The one who breaks me out of this monstrous, hellish pit of a prison. And so that's the thing, the deal. He's basically asking Poe and the Resistance versus Terex and the First Order. Whichever one of you can break me out, I'll tell you the information about where Lord Santeca went. So it's a competition, and because of the type of person he is, he's not going to really, like or appreciate either of them trying to interrupt each other. So it's going to have to be a fairly fair competition here about trying to make an escape attempt, or potentially they're going to have to work together and sort it out afterwards. So Terex is obviously the one most annoyed by this because he paid the most to get in there, obviously outbidding the Resistance. But Graxus is just like, look, this is the offer I'm making you. Whichever one of you has the better plan to get me out, that's who I'll give the information to. And he just says that, oh yes, I make lots of deals. Our original deal was before Mr. Dameron arrived. Now we have a new deal, Terex. I just doubled my odds of getting out of here. Good luck to you both. I look forward to hearing the arrangements for my escape. And they just kind of, you see Poe and Terex look at each other and they're just like, may the worst man win. And Poe, in a really kind of humorous moment, just looks at Graxus and says, you just made this really complicated, right? And he's like, I do. Yeah. And then Poe just looks at them and says, yep, just making sure. And I just have this really funny moment because Graxus is obviously kind of like lying down in a kind of hut-like kind of spa situation. And then Poe is just like leaning on the edge and is just like, kind of like, oh, this guy. And yeah, we just get the preview for next issue is that something happens and apparently Poe's going to get like arrested on the way out, and that's going to be the way to break them out. But we'll see how that goes in next issue. So, overall, I think really solid issue, a good start to this arc in terms of explaining the prison and the cool setup for that, and then most importantly, placing Terex and Poe Dameron at odds with each other in terms of trying to come up with a deal, but him kind of demanding a more fair approach to it, because they know that, like, if one of them tries to take out the other one, he maybe won't agree with that and stuff like that. So actually a pretty interesting Hood character who takes a different approach to the other ones, and that he's not all about like super power and control. He's like, no, I'm offering you a deal, a competition to see who will be better, and he seems fairly agreeable about a lot of things. So very interesting character, Graxus the Hood, and then just setting up more Terex and Poe kind of facing off against each other. So yeah, that's been the issue. In the comments, if you have any questions, thoughts on the issue, thoughts on the review, let me know in the comments. Other than that, that's been the video, and then I'll just end off by saying, linked in the description is a link to my Patreon page. Obviously, this is a way for you guys to help support my channel, to make more videos, make videos in a better way. The main thing a lot of the Patreon support will be going towards is a new camera. My current camera is very much on the way out. It has some problems, and I'm just really in a dire situation of needing to get a new camera. So all support is going to go towards that. There is also, if you're not a fan of Patreon, a PayPal donation link, if that's a better way you'd prefer to support the channel. But those are just there if you want them. But yeah, other than that, that's been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.